Good evening. Thanks for joining us for DC News Now at 6 o'clock. I'm Chris Flanagan.
And I'm Tasmin Mahfouz, and we start tonight with breaking news. This is a live look at the scene. Two children have been shot in the Brightwood neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Police say it happened shortly after 4 p.m. Metro Transit police say they were shot as they were getting off a bus.
That happened in the area of 14th and Sheridan. They were rushed to the hospital. Now, police did not give us details on those children's conditions. We do have a reporter and photographer at the scene right now working at more details. The police are expected to hold a news conference, a briefing at any moment. We'll carry that for you live right here on DC News Now. So, of course, count on us to bring you all the breaking developments both on air and online.
Meanwhile, we're learning new details tonight about the man accused of shooting a 13-year-old boy over the weekend. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser now revealing that the man is a D.C. government employee who's on administrative leave. D.C. News Now's Annalisa Gale is live in the newsroom with a look at what's next in this judicial process. Hey there, Annalisa.
Hey there. These answers came after a question about a rumor, but tonight there's still lots of questions about that government employee's exact job title.
We have a young person that should be alive.
As questions swirl, Mayor Muriel Bowser shared more insight on the deadly shooting on Quincy Street over the weekend.
The shooter, a D.C. government employee. I've seen that somewhere.
Yes.
Adding that the man who shot and killed 13-year-old Karan Blake is an African-American D.C. government employee. At the time, he told police he believed that Karan was breaking into vehicles.
I'm not going to say what agency. I can tell you the employee, like in other cases where we've had an employee accused or charged, that employee is on administrative leave.
The city isn't releasing body camera video in order to protect the integrity of the investigation.
We don't have body-worn camera that shows the shooting. We only have body-worn camera that shows the response. As of right now, we won't be releasing it.
There are a lot of cases that happen in our city where arrests are not immediately made because all of the facts are not known. Make an arrest immediately and then the judge throws it out the next day, that's justice for the family. That's doing this case justice.
Bowser's updates came hours after Karan's grandfather spoke publicly for the first time.
Give me justice, get a family justice, do your job.
This, to me, is not an abnormal process.
Trial attorney Deanna Maria Lewis says there's no exact timeline for the judicial process. She's waiting to see if a grand jury will be called on to review the case.
But I think once you have a grand jury impaneled and the grand jury comes back saying that, they believe whatever the charge is can be demonstrated based on the prosecution alone's evidence, typically prosecutors use that as leverage in the negotiation, if you will, to decide whether or not a plea deal is appropriate and what degree of a plea deal is appropriate.
And this week we learned that that worker does have a concealed carry permit and he has hired his own attorney. In the newsroom, Annalisa Gale, DC News Now.
All new tonight, 2 teenagers are dead. A third teen is injured in a car crash in Fairfax County. It happened last night on Lee Chapel Road in Fairfax Station. Police say the driver lost control of the car. The 2 teens were told died at the scene. The other teen was taken to a hospital with life-threatening injuries. Police believe speed was a factor in this crash.
And hundreds of people traveling from Northern Virginia finally made it to Florida this morning after 37 hours on the Amtrak auto train. So it was delayed about 20 hours. DC News Now's Daniel Hamburg investigates what led to this severe setback.
I'm told that there wasn't great communication between Amtrak and the 563 passengers on board. This turned from a 17-hour trip into a 37-hour trip because a freight train derailment started a cascade of problems.
Everyone was kind of feeding off of each other's anger and frustration and tiredness and all that.
Hannah Dorr and her mom left Lorton, Virginia on Monday around 5 o'clock on the auto train nonstop to Sanford, Florida. But 6 hours later, the train stopped in North Carolina.
And they didn't announce that there was a delay or that the train had stopped until maybe 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
The train had to detour because a CSX freight train derailed in South Carolina.
The employees that were able to interface with the passengers kept saying that this was not Amtrak's fault because they don't have jurisdiction over the rails, that the freight trains have jurisdiction over the rails.
Around 8 a.m. Tuesday, they started moving again.
3 p.m. we had gotten to a little bit south of Columbia, South Carolina, and we stopped again.
Dorr says there was an announcement they had to get a replacement crew because the current engineers were past the time they could work. At one point,
someone in charge came on and said, "Please do not call the police. We are not holding you hostage." I know obviously we weren't, but it just kind of felt that way. I can see how someone was just super frustrated.
But no one was let off the train except her and one other passenger who both had service dogs who needed to relieve themselves. As for food beyond the normal dinner and breakfast served,
About 6 p.m. yesterday, they did produce little snack boxes that were complimentary.
But for those who wanted something more to eat,
the cafe cart, by the time I got up there around 7, super low on all food.
Amtrak says it apologizes for the delay and will be working with each customer on fare refunds. In Lorton, Virginia, Daniel Hamburg, DC News Now.
Yeah, new details tonight on the Maryland State Trooper who's facing federal drug and bribery charges. He's expected to have a hearing for the case on Friday. So Trooper Jason Riggs now faces up to 30 years in prison for the charges. Court documents show that he leaked case information to a drug distributor, all in exchange for money. Riggs was assigned to the Hagerstown Barrack. He's a 10-year veteran of the force.
Well, fentanyl continues to be a huge problem across D.C., Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. But as our Skylar Salas shows us, the feds say they've recently struck a major blow to the distribution of that drug.
Due to the efforts of the Potomac Highlands Drug Task Force and several other law enforcement agencies, 2 Baltimore-based drug trafficking organizations have been shut down by federal indictments for trafficking drugs across Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia.
The threat that we face is much greater than ever before because the potency of the drug that is being sold now is greater than anything we've ever seen.
According to U.S. Attorney William Illenfeld, the large amounts of fentanyl being distributed to West Virginia has reached an all-time high, but ongoing investigations have led to more than 30 people involved in drug distribution being charged.
We could not have brought these cases together and indicted 34 people and dismantled these drug trafficking organizations without the work of all of these agencies coming together, collaborating, sharing information, leveraging resources, and working together.
Margaret Shrewsbury has lived in Romney, West Virginia for 30 years and says the drug bust can only mean positive things.
And certainly we're better off to attack it at the dealer level rather than the user level.
But others feel it won't fix the overall problem.
I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think it's going to make things worse.
I think drug use in the community is always due to be here. So hopefully this sends a message to those in Baltimore County or any other county that's coming in trafficking drugs that eventually they're going to be caught.
Federal officials say the 2 drug organizations had been operating since 2020. Reporting in Romney, West Virginia, Skylar Salas with DC News Now.
And of the 34 people indicted, 23 have already been arrested.
And out of the hospital, Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin is now home after leaving the Buffalo General Medical Center today. So the news comes just a little more than a week after Hamlin suddenly went down during Monday Night Football. Doctors told DC News Now that Hamlin completed a series of tests and evaluations. They are confident that he can be safely discharged to continue his rehabilitation at home and also with the Bills.
And the fact that he's home and with his parents, and you know, for us, as Damar's dad has said to us multiple times, and Damar has mentioned as well, it's, you know, they want us to go do our job, and that's what we've got to do.
Doctors say it's too early right now to say what could have caused Hamlin's injury.
Meanwhile, tonight on Capitol Hill, the issue of abortion was front and center on the House floor today. Republicans, newly in the majority, pushed forward 2 pro-life bills. Washington correspondent Raquel Martin has our story.
The House will be in order.
3 days in charge, and Republicans say they're moving full speed ahead with efforts to protect the unborn.
The House will at last take action.
For decades, Missouri Republican Congresswoman Ann Wagner has spearheaded a bill to require doctors to provide full medical care to babies born during an attempted abortion.
We must act with compassion to protect these little ones and give women a strong support system.
Wednesday, Republicans also pushed forward a bill to protect pro-life facilities like churches from acts of violence.
Who could be opposed to that?
Republicans argue there's been a surge of attacks and threats against pro-life advocates since the Supreme Court overturned the federal right to an abortion. But Democrats call their concern hypocritical.
I cannot support it unless they also recognize the violence against those who are seeking medical care.
Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee calls both pro-life bills extreme.
Basically, it is to criminalize women and to criminalize medical care.
While Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace supports both bills, she fears the current Republican efforts will backfire.
I think it sends the wrong message at the wrong time right now, especially in the first week of Congress. We need to be showing that we can find some middle ground on this issue.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer already says both bills are doomed in the Senate. In Washington, Raquel Martin.